Peace and love, y'all. It's your brother A.D.V.I.S, and we are here with another installment of more interviews, aka memoirs of our real experiences. And for today's interview, we have the creative and just all around artistic great poet. Dog days are over. Now, I'm going to add some more stuff real quick. I want to get at least the background that we have here, and I already see that Dog Days is in the building. So shouts out to you. Let me bring you in, as well as let me give you the intro as you are coming in. So if y'all tuning in, if y'all have questions too, please join in and add questions. We appreciate it so much. But with that, as I'm bringing in Dog Days, here we go. So we have Hector F. Castaneda, aka Dog Days Are Over, is a writer, creative coach, musician, and producer. He's based in Alone Territory, East Side, San Jose, with a loving family of immigrants. He is a shape-shifting chameleon, night owl, bellowing in the oceanic void. So beautiful. Constantly phoenixing the architecture of his body. His multifaceted performance features an intuitive, decolonized blend of poetry, song, and music to invoke divine, alchemic messaging. And with that, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring in Dog Days Are Over. And what's going on? I see you in here too, Juju. How are you doing? And as I was going too, I was trying to play something in the bag, but yo,
Hello.
how are you doing?
I am feeling radiant. Like, just a lot of things are aligning in my life. Hello. People coming in.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
and this is one of them. Like a lot of opportunities and for us to and like connections, and yeah, I'm really happy that we could finally make this happen. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, shoot. No, thank you for reaching out and, being able to provide the time to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, I not only do this just so I have content, but I really want to display and show other people great individuals, creatives all around, not just only just making music, but we have
Mm-hmm.
poets, authors like yourself too. So just a number, plethora of people.
Mm.
So thank you for reaching out and taking of your
Of
time to come
course.
for the interview tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with that, is there any questions that you have prior before we get into interview, or you want to share and tell people?
Well, yeah, so my book, Strange Alchemy, is out the 22nd of this month. I'm really excited for
Wow.
it because it's taking like pieces I wrote in like seventh grade and rewriting them, some of which I like kept like kind of like intact. I was like, whoa, so this is
Mm.
something that still resonates with me. And there are also pieces that I wrote a couple years back that I am, as I like to say, re-alchemizing because I like pull out the essence of it and just make it more like sharp and concise.
Mm.
And yeah, I also yeah, I have a single out on the 25th called Vine Thresholds. It's the instrumental version.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm really excited for that as well because even though it doesn't have the vocals or like, the lyrics, it still, tells the story of how I want to find my own voice. And I'm kind of in this middle like rite of passage where it's like I can see where I can go and the amount of fear I need to let go of for me to be able to go to the next stage, and that applies to my writing
Mm.
as well. And the best way to connect with me is through my bio link. In there is my newsletter. That's like the one thing if you would like to be up to date on all the different events and
Yes.
creations behind the scenes that I have going on. Signing up for the newsletter is the best way for you to achieve that. I also have a website, so feel free to explore them. It's got like pretty much all of my main creative projects. One of them is Oracularity, which
Mm.
one form or another will be in the book. I did send it out to publishers, so I'm thinking, maybe to get around the loops, I'll do an erasure of it. But
Yeah.
if when and like if publishers don't want to like publicate it, then I'll like include the full body of work because that's something that has really resonated with people. And this kind of segues into the theme of today,
Yes.
which is intuition and alchemy, divinity. So for me, one thing that I've noticed people asking me a lot is like, what is alchemy to you? And so to me,
Mm.
alchemy is like an everyday occurrence. If you are in a room isolated by yourself, there's still alchemy happening within your body, like your
Yes.
heartbeat, your, breathing, all the different systems in place in your body that allow you to be alive and to create. Like that for me is alchemy. And in the
Mm.
natural world, you know, what alchemy looks like is a plant growing from a seed to a tree. For me, it's like
Mm.
when the predator eats its prey and its body becomes part of its own. And yeah, so alchemy is like not too like it can be complex, but at its core, it's like really not. It's like everywhere. I like the idea of like that magic is just like everywhere all the time, and some people call it science, biology. There are different ways to approach
Yes.
it, and the way that I have been approaching it as of lately is through the framework of alchemy because I feel that that resonates most with me as someone who is again like very intuitive, and I have started to like really consider myself an alchemist. I don't have like potions, I don't have like a magic wand, or
Yeah.
like you're not gonna buy me a Hogwarts or any of that, like, or I don't have like a broom that I'm riding on. It's
Yeah.
just like alchemy can be as simple as me, a pen and a piece of paper, or just me on my computer, me creating music and poetry and all these things. And so,
Yes. And
yeah.
shout
So,
outs to everybody in the chat right now. Shout outs to CT Lucas in the building. He also is doing the stream. Shout outs to we got Casepedia in here as well as Freshnit. So thank y'all for being in here. If y'all have any questions that y'all want to ask Hector, Dog Days are over,
mhm.
please throw them in the comments as we are going. So thank you for that. Some of just what you sharing of not only people asking about, you know, what alchemy is or is to you in this particular case, but also a bit about the divinity, which we're gonna get into definitely
Mhm.
deeper later on into the interview. But the first thing I want for folks at least to know about you, or at least to tell them, can you give us a brief background about yourself and who you are?
For sure. So, on my background, which you kind of already touched upon a bit, I'm based on Ohlone territory, colonially known as San Jose, California,
Mm.
and I live with my parents. I am I graduated from UC Santa Cruz back in June with a
Congrats.
degree. Thank you. Yeah, it was a degree in English and electronic music,
Mm.
and I feel like I let's see, what have I done? I've been part of the Stonewall International Poetry Slam based in Baltimore. Shout out to the Black Arts District for making that happen. It was like a pretty much like an all queer slam of non cis het people, and it was like so awesome to meet
Mm.
authors and poets who I had like read about and heard about and been in virtual spaces with, like Ebony Stewart, Portia O. What's that other guy that's like on Bud? It's like he wrote Helium, the book Helium. It's
Mm.
Rudy Francisco.
Mm.
Yeah, I like got to meet like these amazing people and just be like human with them. Like I didn't like fanboy like
Yeah.
every now and then. I was like, oh my god, it's like freaking Ebony Stewart and Rudy Francisco. But I like it was great to just be heard by people like them. And yeah, that's like I mean, okay. I'm trying to think, like, funnel down on, like, okay, what is it I want to communicate with people of, out of all the things I've done? Because I have done so many things. Like,
If y'all don't know, check when you do, go on that bio link. You'll check. He has a whole resume of all the
I have a
creative things that he's
resume
done.
in there.
My goodness, there is so much I wanted to touch on. I went in, yeah, y'all. So you'll be there for days. Might be there for months. Even longer. So
If
you never
you
know.
really wanted to. Yeah, so the link tree is a resume, and that resume has a resume, which is, it's like a whole fractalized, like, inception type shit happening. Yeah, like, I credit a lot of my creative growth to well, like, this, the initial, like, spark that really set me off was the Santa Cruz Word Church. We used to be
Mm,
based in the Museum of Art and History, and then we later moved to the Veterans Hall. And that for me was a space where I got to really, perform almost every week. I would also perform at the Mellow Mellow Kava Bar,
okay.
just like down the street by where that was, basically. And, like, it was a space for me to really grow in my writing because, open mics would usually have like a 4 minute time limit, and that would be a challenge for me. I would always be like rushing my pieces, and people would be like, oh, like, it's cool what you're doing, but I also, like, couldn't, like, catch on, like, all the way, because, like, my style is very dense and metaphor
Mm-hmm.
heavy. So over
Mm-hmm.
time I really learned how to, like, hone in on what I'm, like, really trying to communicate. And so shout out to them. They are not active as of now due to the
Yeah.
pandemic, but, it was great while it happened. And I'm glad that got to be a space for me during college for me to really grow into alch- the alchemy that I utilize in my everyday. And so,
Mm,
yeah.
mm. Oh, thank you for sharing that. And kind of we're touching on the next question I had for you, but to phrase it in a little bit more, when did you begin creating poetry and art?
I mean, ever since I could, like, hold the pen. I was a
Mm,
baby. Like, that's basically when I started. Like, I would just, like, scribble and doodle a lot. My first ever um experience with creativity was drawing. I remember seeing this video my parents would show me of me as a baby, like, and I drew a dog with like 10 legs.
interesting.
Like,
Wow.
that was like crazy. Like, how would I think of a dog with 10 legs? Like, I just think kids are, like, so, like, already, like, so raw and creative in their own way, and,
Agreed.
for that to be facilitated and nurtured by parents and by education can, like, really transform children's lives. Unfortunately, it's not the case for most of them, but, in those cases that it is for people like me, even though I did go, through the whole educational system, I always held on to this sense of, like, there's this untouchable place within me that is so, like, close to me that nothing that ever, nothing that I am put through will really change that. I'm
Mm,
always changing. I'm always doing something new, switching up my style, but, that's on like the edges, and, in the core is just, that constant power, which I love seeing other creatives tap into that, and a lot of my favorite
mm.
authors and poets and musicians are those people that are, like, willing to go there. Yeah.
Wow. And look at you already. Like, I guess you kind of know what these questions are already before I even jump into it. It's just great segues. So the next one I had for you is because you're talking about, artists and them being able to channel that. So my question to you is, what do you do to channel your creativity to produce your art and poetry?
So there are a lot of things. Some of them that I can speak on in this moment are that I listen to a lot of poets. I listen to a lot of music. I love just hearing new innovative artists. Like so here's one thing, I'll listen to albums all the way through. That might
Mm.
be like out there for some people. For me, that's just how I
I
exist.
do. I do the same thing. I'm with you.
Yeah, like I've heard and I'm citing my friend Gabriel Kittle Servine from Santa Cruz, who used to be part of the Santa Cruz Word Church. He said it's like reading a book when you just like listen all the way through, and the songwriting is poetry. Yes, ocularity. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's one thing people sometimes call oracularity, ocularity, and
Yeah.
I love that because it's like more of the the linguistical association with the eye and vision and like peering into the future, present, and past. Okay, I'm spiraling. Going back to what you
You're
were saying
good.
about like how do I set the stage for me to create? There is, and I know that a lot of people deal with this creative blockages, writer's block, all that. So I mean, like
Yeah.
the world is it does what it does. It's chaotic and ordered at the same time. Oh my God, thank you for coming. Um, someone that I really appreciate just joined it. I'm just like,
Awesome.
um,
Pokemon breeder Benny in the building. What's
yeah.
going on?
God, stop. And oh my God, okay. It was good. I was talking
So
about
how you channel and how you say you said set the stage for you to create your art.
yeah. I was going towards something super specific. Okay, so the world is always, throwing information at us. It's always begging for our attention, whether it wants to like look at this ad or look at this, look at that. Especially, in this pandemic where a lot of what was in person is online, and the way
Yeah.
I've like you know, the way I've navigated that is to just like let myself breathe, give myself like space to pause and like look away from a screen. Even if I'm like in an interview like this, I'll be like looking around, looking in my environment, not always,
Oh yeah, you're
doing that
good.
because it's a thing with your eyes. Speaking of ocularity, like on a screen, because you're seeing so many things, your eyes create a depth perception for you to like it. Your brain still thinks that flat surfaces with like this chat, the stickers, and like people
Yes.
that you can like reach, and it's like whoa. But so it kind of like messes with your eyes a little bit, and that's what causes
Yes.
that strain. And it's not like necessarily like damage. It can get to that point, but like typically it's just like, oh, okay, eyes are adjusting and like making everything like flat. So if you just give yourself a little like time every now and then to like look around and like maybe look at something in the distance that's at least 20 feet away for 20 seconds, your eyes will be like, okay, so now it's like time for me to come back to this. So that analogy
Mm.
being a way for me to be like, you don't always have to be creating something. You don't always have to be outputting content. You don't always have to be doing X, Y, and Z. That
Yes.
was one of the biggest lessons for me. Hey, Sarako. Hey, Akasha Consultant Chabra. Like like, as artists, we think that the main thing, we think that, it's the art. I need to be creating this like all the time. I need to like be sharing this with people and like doing the absolute most to get people to see it. And for me, I've had to let go of a lot of that. I would burn myself out trying to DM a bajillion people about my like latest project. And now,
Mm.
ever since like really honing into the fact that whoever will interact with my work will resonate with it, and I'm still gonna like market it and promote it, but it's gonna be more calculated towards those people
Yeah.
who will actually give me like some sort of like energetic return, whether it's just watching or letting me know like, hey, this is something that really resonates with me. It's like changed my perspective, like
Yes.
like I really don't want to burn myself out, and I still do.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not as often. It still happens, but it's crazy how like when you really take time to invest in yourself, whether that's a coach or self-care or like just meditating or like doing nothing. That
Yes.
how much like of the work is still happening, like when you put something out there into the world that is the internet, it's being shared on like so many other platforms other than just where you put it out on, like that was
Mm,
crazy because when I started uploading videos to YouTube, I saw like, well, there's like YouTube and SoundCloud, like there's like 10 other sites that this is uploaded to at the same time because of how like I don't know, like
mm,
there's just so many things linked to that. So just know that like you're gonna reach people who aren't even on the platform that you're trying to reach them on.
yes.
Um, and like it's that trust that you put in the work, you did the thing, and now it's time to just be like hands off. My friend Chris Harpster, shout out to Chris Harpster, who is also a really dope poet. I mean, at the Santa Cruz Word Church, he told me
What's good,
that
Chris?
yeah, like he told me like it's it's like if you have a museum exhibit, you're not gonna be coming like every 2 hours to check in on how it's doing. You're just gonna like walk away and let people experience it, and that for me was so powerful because it's like, yeah, like I
Hmm.
don't want to like lose sleep over analytics or view counts or like all these
Yeah.
things, which it's I think it's okay to have these things in mind, like, okay, this is just to see how you're growing or how you're doing. Even if you're not growing, it's like you get to see the progression. It's like, okay, this is the visibility that it gained. That for me, that's what it is. It doesn't
Mm,
have to do necessarily with its worth and how good it is. It's just this is how visible it is. This is how much this is visible. For some people, that means a lot to others because some people are more dependent on that, especially if you're like, I guess, like more out there, if you're trying to be more like out there. But basically, going back to what you were saying,
yes.
how to create that creativity, a lot of it is so the creativity is the fruit of this big tree that is your life.
Yeah.
You're not gonna always have fruit. You're not always gonna be in season. You need to shed those leaves. You need to prune. You need to like get better fertilizer. You need to compost. There's so much behind the scenes that happens when you're creating.
Yes.
I feel like that's not talked about as often for like I don't know, like you know people, we for a lot of artists, all of that you see is just their content, and occasionally behind the scenes, um but even when it's like, oh, I have a behind the scenes video, this that, it's
Yeah.
like, what is behind the scenes? Like
Yeah.
what did you have to do to meet this person that's like doing your makeup, that's filming you? Like, how did you meet them? Like, what is the mindset you had to be in for you to be able to even approach that person? What is the mindset that you had to be in that so that you could create this so that it could resonate with people? There's just it's like, if you really root down into like why you're creating these things and you really
Yeah.
take the time to do that, then that like all of your creations will come into fruition. And maybe it won't be view counts, maybe it won't be a bajillion people liking your posts. It can be that you change someone's life and they might never tell you about it. And that is like a big lesson I had to learn, kind of like just knowing that by my work existing, it's already creating an impact, and I don't need to do anything more than that. And if I do, then it's just taking it another step beyond.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, like a good formula, just to like close out on this thought,
And you're good.
is like the 80-20 formula for me. Like, you want to be like cultivating space for yourself, for others in your life, about
Yeah.
80% of the time investing, researching, learning, intaking, and that 20% of the time you want to be outputting, which is, I feel like socials are the 20% that you see, maybe even the 5%, 1%,
Yeah.
0.1%. of creations. So like if you just keep in mind, like, okay, everything I'm seeing on this platform, let me just say I see like a post on IG by someone I really admire. And I'm like, damn, like why am I not doing that? Like how do I get to there? Like the moment you start comparing yourself to other people out of like
Yes.
shaming yourself and not because you want to grow, that's gonna like hinder you so much. Like it's wild like how much that can do. And like that's another thing, right? That is a blockage. It's just, you know, the blockages are everywhere, and so is
Mm,
the abundance. And that's what I want people to see, that this is an everyday type of thing, that like once you build and expand your awareness, you'll see like, oh, so this is how this post, this is how this caption is like influencing me or not. And like you can do what you want with that information, and like we're just seeing information, and it's up to us to determine how that resonates with us, so that we can best determine the path to take in our own lives, to be able to make that 20% be
yes.
like multiplied into 10 billion percent.
Awesome. Oh man.
Yeah.
Thank you for again setting that space for yourself as well as those folks around you that are creating. And there's one way, y'all can look up the 80/20 and then figure out and put
Mm-hmm.
those together for yourself to see how that works, because at the end of the day we're here to share, but then at the same time we're also here to help build and create. So y'all continue to, as well as thank you for everybody coming in. Shouts out to Angelica for following. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. As well as, please, if not, please go follow Dog Days Are Over,
Oh,
aka Hector.
thank you so
Please
much.
go support. And when I mean support, don't just go say, hey man, shoot, cool, and then leave. Like, shoot, if a post comes up, like the post. If you go and see the link, go to the link tree. Look at something, go ahead, click on it. You look it. You won't be disappointed. I'll tell you that now. I know I keep saying that with every person that comes on, but I'm being serious. You have a very extensive resume, as well as there's things there that I definitely resonate with, and there's others that leave me, baffled, but in a good way, as in like,
Hmm.
yo, I don't even know how I can even describe this. Like some of the stuff I can even get to describe. But y'all, please don't also go and check out Dog Days Are Over, which the next question, and I did a little bit of somewhat of research, a little bit on you, but not that much. When it comes to your name, I heard from a podcast interview that you did with Tizzy and Wayne Coffee
Oh
Show.
shit, you listened to that? Thank
Yeah.
you.
So, because I was interested, because people probably looking like Dog Days Are Over. So when I saw the inspiration behind the name, listening to it, you said that it comes from Florence and the Machine song "Dog Days Are Over,"
Hmm.
and what you said about why that song also resonated with you so much, it says that it has this feeling of arrival, birth, and joy, and that's what you wanted to embody with that with the name that you have. So if y'all don't know, go check out Florence and the Machine too.
Yes.
I felt like I've heard the voice before, but I didn't know when I watched it. I was like, yo,
Yeah.
it felt good. So
Hmm.
my question to add to that is, since you said you wanted to embody this feeling of arrival, birth, and joy, in the song, in that name that you carry, what have you done so far to embody that symbolism of your name?
Hmm.
I know you have your
That's
full resume, but to yourself,
okay.
what really have you felt that you've used to embody that?
To embody the energy of Dog Days Are Over,
Mm-hmm.
like for me, what that feels like is like when it's the feeling you get when someone tells you that your work is like that, it's basically changed their perspective or brought them a new point of view in a way that
Mm,
challenges them to grow. At its
mm,
core, that's what this project of mine is about. To, and even if they don't like message me, like as I mentioned earlier, I could change someone's life and never hear about it.
yes.
um and for those that do put in the energy to communicate to me that my work has impacted them, like that is what like gives me life. It in one way it well, there are a lot of things that keep my creativity running and growing and thriving, and that like gives it a boost. Like I wouldn't
Mm,
say it's at the foundation, because to rely on that wouldn't necessarily be the best, but it like
yeah.
it I'm very self-driven, and also to hear that it's like, oh, like okay, it's like a reaffirmation of what I already knew. So,
Mm.
you know, at the end of the day, with my bajillion different things that I'm doing, that's all I want to do, is just like let people activate their own creation. It doesn't have to be creative, it doesn't have to be music or poetry. It can be like, if I reach someone who's a teacher,
Yeah.
who, like my mom, and they have something to share with their students, whether like they just mention it or they build a whole curriculum
Yeah.
around it, like that for me is the impact that I am looking for, to like have like this to create this multiverse that it like there's so many ways to navigate it.
Mm.
um but no matter which path that anyone takes, it will leave them transformed, and that may be uncomfortable, that might be joyful, but my mission is just to
Mm.
activate. Like it's just like
Mm.
boom, like that thing was already in, like I just pulled something out of the collective unconscious and like brought it to the conscious, and like it might look like I'm pulling this out of nothing. And sometimes I do like pull things out of void, but it's still a place, it's there, and I just want people to expand their like to expand their ocularity.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow. Just to bring it back to that again, if y'all have any questions, please throw them in the comments. I appreciate y'all. Some folks are really resonating with what you're saying, as well as, yes, again, thank you for being here and sharing your light and time. Let's get into some more questions, and then I also got some. I call them fun questions. Sometimes they may not be fun for other people, but I got a few fun
Okay.
questions in some ways. One thing I wanted to know, on top of, again, you not only just being a poet, but just an all around creative. Specifically, I came to see and hear some of the poetry. Going to different open mics and just hearing from other folks. I mean, shouts out to Kunden for being in one of them, and then I pop in and I end up seeing you and a few others in there as well too, like
Mm,
Tanish and
yeah.
also I think AJ words as well.
Hmm.
So shouts out to Kunda and everyone there. I wanted to know, what was the first poem you wrote, and then I
Mm.
have the second question after that, but I don't want to confuse you just yet. So the first one is, what was the first poem you wrote?
Oh my god.
If
So
you can
like,
recollect.
hmm wow, that's taking me back to like sixth, seventh grade.
Mm.
Wow. So like my earliest memory of a piece I wrote, it was like, and I actually have a video of wait, no, okay, I'm thinking of like okay. So in my YouTube, I like uploaded a while back this like earliest footage that I have of me at an open mic at my middle school. There was like maybe like 5, 7 people in the audience, and like students and like a teacher. And what I talked about in that piece, it was like this. I think it was a couple pieces, like one after the other, but they all connected. It was basically about how I observed myself and my role in the world,
Mm.
in this world where there is like so much. that is being destroyed and created at the same time. Like
Mm.
like I still have this feeling that I had as a kid, that like I always knew deep down that I was born in a time where there's going to be like a huge shift energetically, which we are like all in right now. Like the
Yes.
pandemic is just one symptom of that. You know, Age of Aquarius, like all that. I'm not just, you know, things are always changing. That's just a given, but specifically for this moment, you know, what I talked about in that poem, that one of the first poems I ever wrote, was basically being like, it was me witnessing the world around me and being like, God, like, what can I do? Like, there was this sense of like desperation,
Mm.
um, some hopelessness in a way. And like, and when I say hopelessness, I don't mean that like I like feel like I can't do anything. I
Yes.
have always known there are things I can do, but it was like, where do I plug in these tools and resources for me to like make things change?
Mm.
You know, like I've shared that with a couple people, and like they were really taken aback by that. Like, and I'm taken aback by that because like it's like I am like in seventh grade and I'm like talking about these things that like feels like was like going through some kind of like
Mm.
existential midlife crisis. I feel like a reason for that is because like, and I say this like every now and then, and I used to say this a lot in college. I feel like I have lived many lifetimes in this
Mm.
lifetime,
Mm.
you know, not even counting the ones that might have been before, like this body. Like within my body, I feel like every few years, maybe like 5, 7 years, there's this huge like renewal, and that can happen in smaller ways across weeks or days. And you know, everyone goes through that. For
Yeah.
me, the way that I have been able to call it that is because it just feels like so like okay, the neurodivergence, you know, like that's like a big one. Me being neurodivergent means that in one way that when I transform, it is extremely alchemic. It's just so extreme for
Mm.
me, you know. And like when I was writing that first earliest piece,
Mm-hmm.
I could already sense that there was all these things that were going to be happening in my life. And, you know, for me to like honor that, for me to put pieces from around that time into this book,
Yes.
is monumental for me to like be
Mm.
able to meet my past self in the middle and still like, yeah, I say the word honor a lot because it's like, yes, this is where I was, this is where you were, and look at where I am now. Like it's
Yes.
like it's crazy, like how I could go from my first piece, like very, you know, stream of consciousness and jumping from one topic to the other, and like, you know, every now and then they'll have like this like metaphor happening to um now, which for
Mm.
me is like one style being oracularity or ocularity, where it's just it's still the
Mm.
stream happening, but it's very like one image after the other. It's like um seeing a vision just happen like with your eyes closed. It's like,
Wow.
yeah, you know, they're all
Wow.
chained to each other. Um yeah, I feel like I could pause there.
Continue.
You know,
Wow.
if you want to experience that for yourself, you can check out my video Oracularity and just
Oh, I
feel
I
that.
definitely I
Yeah.
definitely did. It there was so many moving parts in there. You had the
Oh,
person who
thank
was
you.
dancing and listening to you in the background. And like you were saying earlier, um, you still have a real straight and very, I'll say, atmospheric way of how you bring your words that honestly, when you're speaking them, it creates a sense of a new environment without like even like you're still here. Like I can still be sitting right here. But when you speak your words, like it seems like I'm transported somewhere else. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I don't even know where that somewhere else is.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, y'all go and check out again. Go and follow Dog Days Are Over, aka Hector,
Thank you.
and please check out a lot of the things. Yes, go up there, click on that, and click on the link in there. Again, there is so much information, so many different things in there for you to experience. Okay, y'all. Again, if y'all have any questions, please throw them down in there. We're, very grateful for y'all to come in and spend time with this. Again, this is more interviews. This is memoirs of our real experiences. And we're getting some real experiences and some of the memoirs from Dog Days Are over here right now. The next question I had right after the one for I told you about the first poem you wrote. What was the first poem you read?
Oh. I mean, like, oh my god, going even farther back than that. So that piece was like one of the earliest that I remember that I wrote, but like I know I read before that. Like I can say that those two were like one and the same. That this is just me citing my memory, like my earliest written and earliest performed, like both in one. But like
Yeah, if it's the
I
earliest read, what is if it's hard to think about the earliest read, what is one if not more recently than that you've read?
a recent one.
If again think of the if I mean if even if the earliest if you think about it, be like it could be somewhere in high school if you remember one like I'll say
Oh,
most memorable one then. I'll say a most memorable
oh, okay.
poem that you read.
Most memorable that I read in high school. Oh my god. Okay, let me see if I could like visit that time. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I remember, and I can hear you playing my music in the background. Thank you so much for
Oh yeah, we got
that.
to. It's the support. I'm not just gonna come here and just only interview you. Yes, I'm gonna run some of the streams up on Spotify. Go
Thank
listen on
you.
Bandcamp. Yeah, no, you gotta. I'm just not gonna be like I appreciate that and like you reaching out. I'm like yes, I'm gonna do my part. That's what support is. It's again like you said, you're getting that the reciprocation of the energy. Like I
Mhm.
respect it, so I have to.
Awesome, for sure. Thank you. Yeah, so and like a memory did come back to me. So I remember being in high school in my environmental consciousness class. I was like, okay, first thing, I was really lucky to have that class because I had a teacher that was very invested in environmentalist education, and he had the vision for a couple of years. It
Mm.
was a club before it was a class, and I was a part of that club. That club changed my life. I read The Story of Stuff by Annie Leonard, and that's a whole story of its own, but basically it was so transformative, kind of traumatic, but it was a huge wake up call to where I am now. Feel free to read The Story of Stuff by Annie Leonard. I highly recommend it.
Mm.
So, on that memory, I remember being in front of my high school on a field of grass in a circle with other students, and I read, it was like part of an assignment. I read this piece called Remember Dirt. Um,
Mm.
and it was basically aligning like history and ancestral memory to the soil and roots and environment in the way that was like a call to reroute.
Mm.
This bottle I have actually has like if you can see that it's a
Wow,
kombucha bottle. It's a really amazing image, and this is
it is.
basically that piece for me. And this is a lot of what I like to do. It's just becoming that system of roots and branches and networks. And so that was what
Yes.
I did in that piece. It was like, no matter where you are in life and where you like if you're an environmental activist or not, like
Yes.
you can just go outside if you have access to, you know, any kind of soil. You can just tap into the energy beneath our feet, even if you're in a concrete jungle, because I know that that's super real
Mm,
for people who are, you know, have been redlined and racialized and all these things.
yes.
No matter what they put in between you and the soil, like it's still there. We all are on this earth with its core like spinning itself around, creating these like tectonic plates in the soil, and like all this. Like I am a huge advocate for um separation being an illusion,
Mm,
as many things are.
mm-hmm.
Um and you know, there's a flip side to that. Separation can be a very real thing, but you know, and this is the alchemy, right? As above, so below.
Yes.
But what I see a lot is this focus on the above, and for me, the below part is tapping into the separation as an illusion. Um,
Mm,
Even though I can come up with a bajillion counter arguments, but for me, what that, yeah, even like for me, what that is like if I, and it's kind of like the butterfly effect. You know, if I plant, if I create like a seed bomb, which is basically like clay, that encapsulates soil with a bunch of like native wild seeds,
yeah.
and just be like throwing that shit all around my neighborhood, like then I might notice them grow in places that might have never like allowed for that to happen. And I feel like that's what
Mm,
my pieces can be too. They're just seed bombs that I'm like throwing out and seeing what grows and where it, you know, roots down. Um, and so yeah, like I feel like that there's impact there for the life that sustains on a microscopic and macroscopic level. And like, you know, it can, separation being an illusion in terms of like how, you know, on this platform it might seem like there's this huge hierarchy of like people who are like inaccessible, and you know, maybe
yeah.
it is inaccessible because there's systems in place that make that possible, but you know, the system is just bad magic. Is like this weird alchemy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot to alchemy. It's not inherently good or bad. It's the way it's used. And so when
The
there are
intent.
these illusions in place, they can become very real. But you know,
Yes.
they are still some. They are still, you know, an illusion. An illusion is up for debate because it can be real, it can be not. But basically, what I mean to say is the more that you like connect with yourself and your environment, and you become this, when you become the embodiment of a shrine and a tree and a soul in the flesh, then that's when you can like really make some crazy energetic shifts in your life. Like, and like it's this nexus point where there's just so much happening that it'll inevitably branch out into like all the other parts of
Yes.
your life. And so for anyone that's like listening to this now in the future, who was like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like, so what I've been doing this whole time is just, you know, talking about the like, I have been, you know, alternating between, I've been talking about the roots, but
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been talking about how necessarily to make them grow.
Mm,
I've been I've just been talking about like where I'm already at, where I am mentally, metaphysically. So if this is something that you would like to dive in deeper with me,
mm-hmm.
um I am a creative coach who provides alchemic and dream work writing workshops one on one, alongside a bunch of other services such as writing, editing, marketing, branding, all those things are in my link tree in my bio. And it's also in my bio button on my IG. It says book now, and you can book a free call with me so that we can get to know each other. So I can get to know where your blockages are at creatively, how you'd like to grow.
Mm,
And yeah, because this is something that can't really be summarized in an interview. This is something that like people make
yes.
courses about. So if if you feel like you're confused, if you're unclear on a lot of things, just don't don't let it like cut you off from this, because
Yes.
once you start to see what you don't understand as like something to help you grow rather than something that is inaccessible to you, then you can like really, make those shifts in your life happen. And yeah, I'm pausing there.
There it is. Look at y'all again. Um, please tap in if anything interests you and not only sparks your fancy but resonates. Please do tap in with Dog Days Are Over. Please do. With that, it's a great segue then before talking about the seed bombs and throwing them everywhere, seeing you don't know where they're going to plant. Let's get into a few fun questions that I got. One of them is I always like to do my would you rather. So I have a would you rather question. So that's for everybody too. Whoever is here watching it now, later, whoever you want to answer the question, you're more than welcome to answer the question. Um, would you rather explore space, but you can't hear anything, or explore the ocean, but you can't feel anything?
Oh. So you said ocean, but you can't feel anything, and space, but you
You
can't what?
can't hear anything.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. Oh my god. I think, hmm, you know, okay. First thing I'm letting go of is health things that can happen if you go into space and too deep in the water.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
out
yeah,
of the
yeah,
way,
yeah.
I would love, I think, to. I think I'd want to go into the ocean, because I feel like that's a galaxy of its own. There's so little that we know
Yep.
about the deep ocean. Like, I'm not sure if anyone, I the Mariana Trench.
Yes.
All those like
Oh.
super
Mm-hmm.
deep trenches that are like very unexplored, and it's like this abyss where it's like super dark, and there's like these hydrothermic vents that allow for life to exist, and like the weird like bioluminescent beings
Yes.
that are there. It's like an alien world.
Yes.
And if I, could have an experience that was pleasant and not,
Yeah.
like scary and like, oh god, I'm like 20 bajillion thousand like feet under the ocean. Um, that
Yes.
that would be one place I'd like to explore. And it's interesting how both of these places you mentioned are like full of void and empty space, which harbor like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of life,
Yes.
like scattered like all throughout. And I feel like they are, opposites in, oh well, maybe not opposites, but like they're polar, and so you explore one, you still get to learn more about the other, because as
Yep.
above,
That's
so below. So
so you see where I went with it. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and so I still know that even if I just go to the ocean, then I might have some intuitive revelation, like, oh, this can like relate space in this way.
Yep.
And I think that, like, I feel like a, a lot of people might be like, oh my god, space, like, let's go.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I just know that, like, our very own Earth is already so unexplored. As much as
Yes.
we have become industrialized, there's still so much we don't know about the
Yes.
ocean. And it's this. Oh my god. it like the closer you get to the Earth's core, the more that you like might be like
Mm,
I don't even know.
mm,
I feel like I can just leave it there and let people run with that thought.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I honestly I agree with you. I also would have picked the ocean because again, some of the points you said, I resonated with that as well. And I mean, in the ocean, it doesn't mean that you can't come back and share your experience. Just because you can't feel any doesn't mean that you're not able to visually and do all the descriptions of how that can be felt, you know? So
Hmm.
I agree with you on that one. That's
For
mine.
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
Second one I got for you. Tell me or tell us five things that lift your spirit.
Hmm. Five things that lift my spirit. One thing is like the people around me in my
Mm,
house, which is my
mm-hmm.
family. I'm really lucky to have a family that supports me in what I do, like even if they don't understand it. You know,
Awesome.
yeah, like as much as there have been misunderstandings because of how like I think and create, um it's still something that they support.
Yes.
And if I share something with them, then they'll listen. um yeah, like if you have parents that listen, then you're like really lucky. Like I found this out after like really like know getting to know like people's experience with their parents. I'm like, oh my god, like that is so like horrible. Like, and some
Yes.
people don't even have parents, or maybe just like one, and you know. So I'm lucky to like have the family that I do. And you know, it's still a journey. It forever will be, you
Yes.
know, to be like, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm creating. It's not unlike anything you've ever heard of. Here it is. Uh, you know, but at its core, I do have the support to exist and create here. So that's my first one that
Awesome.
lifts my spirits, because it gives me the space to be able to do things to for that. Like it's like
Yes.
without the environment and the home, like I there's not really much else I can do. Like there's still a lot I can do, but definitely
Yes.
not as much. So another thing that lifts my spirits is I have this altar here, like, and I can like actually like show a bit of it, like, so, oh, okay,
There
there
it
we
is.
go. There it is. So this is like right next to like my like little like setup here,
Okay.
with the yeah. So this emerged from my sister helping me rearrange my room because I had this, just not what it looks like now, and it's got these like instruments. It's got like a tarot deck. It's got this book called
Mm,
by A.D.V.I.S., which I highly recommend. She sat with her ancestors for 30 days and wrote about each of them alive and having transitioned. These are, what are they called? Alebrijes
hmm.
from Mexico, and like they're made out of, I think, Palo Santo or some kind of sacred wood. And
Road. Okay.
yeah, I feel like just the visuals themselves like communicate a lot. Like
Wow.
I got some like little herbs and crystals in there. I got this like
Mm.
drum and like
Oh, you have one
thing.
too? I like that too. I have a tongue drum too.
Yeah, I love those. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the second thing that lifts my spirits just by it being there.
Yes.
Um and when I interact with it, it like takes that to like a whole new level. Third thing that lifts my spirits is my partner.
Mm.
Who like passed by not too long ago. Um
Yes.
and like, yeah, Yeah, because like they're another person who is just always there supporting me and like
Yeah.
listening to what I want to create. Like, um, he is he considers himself not creative, but I like whenever someone tells me they're not creative, I always, you know, come up with something just like, what was this you're doing in your life?
Yeah.
You think that's creative? He's a Twitch streamer.
Nice.
His okay. His username is Chill Gamer Benny. So if you all like video games and karaoke, you all should definitely give him a follow and check him out. And I just have a lot of love for him because, like, you know, even though he doesn't have the same experience that I do as a creative, his
Yeah.
input is still valuable to me because, you know, you still want to reach people who like don't create the same things you do,
Yeah.
because like as much as it's great to like have people be like, oh my god, this thing you did with like the riser and the effects and the compression and the reverb and to be seen for that is cool. But like when someone like him can just tell me like, oh, it feels like this is from like Sonic, like that's still so great, you know? Like I would have never thought that my song would feel like it's from Sonic or like that
I'm
this
wow.
mhm.
That is.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say. Look, I'll say this. I'm gonna let you continue. Seedlings on part 1 and 2. If
oh my
y'all
god,
go and check that out too.
thank
Um,
you.
I will say this. There's tracks on there that literally did have me experience different types of emotions. But one thing that I did notice is a few of those tracks definitely did remind me of like some honestly some video game type stuff. Like there's some
Yeah.
boss levels in there that I hear. The instrumentation changing, dramatically from one part then to another part, rises, then it comes down. One of the tracks at least I remember that really got me was I think it's Wound on there.
Wound
So
or
I like
wound,
Wound,
whichever.
the
Yeah.
Wound. Yeah, well, look and see. That's what I'm saying. These words, English, again, but
Yeah.
Wound. But that one really definitely touched me. I liked the tempo and the whole vibe throughout, the whole playing of it. But yeah, that's funny that someone spoke on that because that's what I got from Seedlings is 1 and 2. It's just it had that feel. You said electronic music, so it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like okay, let me come back to Wound. I'm just gonna finish the like other two things.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Wound is on the back burner for now. So four um is food because you know as an earth sign Taurus sun, I you know even that aside, I just love food like and I credit my Latinx heritage for that too. On
Mm,
my dad's side, it's Otomi slash Nyanyu spelled, and I'll spell that in
okay.
chat real quick because I feel like that's important. And I don't hear many people like at all like mentioning that. But yeah, so
Mm,
those names are my closest lineage that I have found. Otomi is the colonial name. Yanyu is closer to
mm,
the you know the more root of it, but I include both
yes.
because you know that is how they exist, and I want to honor both of those. And so for me, food is like it is the lineage for
Mm,
me that brings sustenance to everything I do because like you know a lot of the meals that we have in Mexico are meals that have been passed down for generations and generations, like through it to and through colonialism. Like there's still like rice, beans, and squash, and like chia, and
mm,
like what's another one? Maca,
okay.
quinoa, like you know all
Mm,
these things that are like ooh like new fancy superfoods for like $15 like a cup of like a smoothie or something like that shit like has been a thing forever. Like you know and like I you know on one hand you know despite the spiritual bypassing I'm glad that people are reawakening to food as like this embodiment of just being, and like, you know, how they are stories too.
Yes.
Like, and one, okay, so back to the rice, beans, and squash, or rather corn, beans, and squash.
Squash.
That ties to the story of the three sisters. Um,
Hmm.
I like I forgot like the actual story, but basically the story comes from the fact that corn is, it's tall, it just like sprouts up like that, and beans can grow as a vine like around the cord, and it gives it like a place for it to like hold it on to, and the squash helps with the nitrogen in the soil. It's like very like, it just covers the
Hmm.
ground, so you just kind of, it's like you have this antenna kind of thing,
Mm.
it's like that energy source, all that thing. But yeah, it's that symbioticism, like, it's crazy that what you can grow together really well also tastes really well when you cook it together. That's something to reflect on for like a couple of days,
Yeah.
along with a lot of other things we've talked about. But basically, yeah, and I'm also huge on spices. Oh my god, I cannot eat almost anything without spices. Like,
Mm.
if it doesn't have it, like,
Don't want it.
like,
Got you.
like I'll still try it, but if I am having my own bowl of something, it's like I'll just, don't mind me, I'm just gonna pull out like some oregano and cumin, and
Mm.
like a lot of like maybe like some allspice, or like there's also like Old Bay, and what's another one, like Maggie, and what's another one, it's what's another one that my family would really use, it's like adobo, and like yeah, all that stuff, all that good stuff.
Yes.
All the spices, all the things. For people it can be overwhelming, but for me, I like exploring new things in food too, and not just art. um
Awesome. What about that fifth thing we got?
that fifth one that uplifts my spirits is singing. I love to
Mm.
sing. I have been doing my very best to improve. According to my partner, I have been improving. That makes you really happy.
Yes.
Because he sings a lot too. He always opens and closes his live streams on Twitch with a karaoke song. He's been singing a lot longer than I have, so for him to tell me that is like so great. And I actually recorded last night for the first time in years,
Oh wow.
after like I have been coming out of this blockage of like thinking that I'm not good enough to sing.
Yeah.
And I recorded a song that's it's the instrumental version of, it's the vocal, what I recorded was the vocal version of the instrumental version coming out on the 25th, Vine Thresholds.
Nice.
um
Hmm.
and like, it's crazy what that can achieve as an alchemic thing. Like, there's so many things that happen within your body when you sing, that aligned with certain like nerves, and like the vibration of your voice, it's like this like healing resonance in your body. You can get really like into
Yes.
that, but like I like what I know from singing is just that it makes me feel really great if I really get into the flow of it. After a while, my palms start tingling and feeling like they're
Mm.
vibrating, and like my voice feels really opened and like warmed up, and it's this intense euphoria that I get, and it's like the closest thing to me, to like one of the closest things to me, that what people might consider God or source or spirit or whichever other
Mm.
name. Because it's like you're alchemizing in real time on a level that is like aligned with like a melody and harmony and pitch, and you still do that when you speak, but when you sing, it's like the intention is like maximalized, and so
Yes.
singing really is very potent for me, and I can't wait to like record more. Like it's
Mm,
been exciting me more instead of like making me feel scared and anxious. So yeah, that really uplifts my
be
spirits too.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing those five. And the last one I got, because I want to see what you'll come up with this. And then I have three last questions, and then we'll be done with the interview for today. And again, I appreciate your time. Um, Next
For
one.
sure.
If someone gave you only four items of your choosing to create something eye-catching, what would those items be, and what would you create?
4 items to make something eye-catching. Wow.
Any four of your creating. It don't matter if you end up asking for something that's like $1 million, whatever. There is no list of your choosing. What would you do to create something that's eye-catching, and what would you create? Are those items?
Hmm. Wow. You said 4 items?
Four items.
4 items. Whew.
Take your time. It's all good. I know that you're good. You're good.
Okay, so I don't really, well, I do know, and I don't know why. I like had this vision of a huge um statue.
Hmm.
Maybe there's like a bajillion statues of this like all over the world or something. But if there was one, it's like made out of like I think I don't know what color. It would be either black or white marble,
Okay.
or like a light color because I would like for the surface of it to be like um, so there would be images on it,
Okay.
like either a projector, so the statue and the projectors are like two things so far for me,
Mm-hmm.
um, or like like or the statue itself could be a screen or
Mm.
like a hologram, I don't know, like with just like a lot of different colors and shapes and words just like
Okay.
happening like all at once. So I guess getting into the third one, it would have these like huge speakers um
Mm.
that would be placed in a way that if it would probably be placed in a hexagonal pattern
Okay.
around the statue. So it's like a surround sound experience, and you can just like walk around and hear different sounds and different like
Wow.
ones. Like it might be that there's different pieces happening on different speakers. It might be that there's one thing being played by all the speakers, but each one has a different part of it. So maybe the vocals
Mm.
are like on half of them, and all the other things are on the other one. And maybe there's more like bass over here and less over there, and maybe there's like some
Mm.
birds singing like on these other speakers. So okay, that's three things. The fourth thing that it would be kind of like this all-encompassing multimedia exhibit out in the open
Nice.
for people to just walk by and experience.
Wow.
Okay, before I so a little more about the statue. It would be, I mean, it might look like something. It might resemble me, but I don't know if I want to be the statue.
Got you.
It would be maybe the pose could change, but the pose I had in mind was like um something like this. And
Yes.
I'm just putting it to the screen because it would like actually be like this, but you wouldn't really be able to see that. So
Mm.
it would be like, yeah, that I'll leave that up for interpretation.
Woo.
But the fourth thing
You said it
that
would be. You
would
said it would
what
be outside that multimedia. Like you said it was a multimedia art gallery outside. That's what you said the fourth thing
Yeah.
was.
Uh-huh. And like the fourth element in that would be like we there would be a schedule where people people I would hire people. That's my fourth thing. Other people, I would hire people to be there and like be a facilitator of that
Mm,
space,
mm,
and so that they can expand more on like what is happening, and for people to also like be funneled into my like closer community, like, oh, they can be like, so this is the guy that's putting this on, he has all these things happening, if you want to know more, feel free to like do X, Y, and Z, like,
nice.
it kind of sounds like, oh, I'm just gonna like plug my newsletter, but like for me it's like more than that. It's, like I'm introducing them to my world through this, and for them to be part of like community events, and like, so I would have other people very well paid, like like
Yes.
I want these people to get paid their worth for something as monumentous as this, since we're like imagining very freely. I would definitely want to be there as much as I could,
Yeah.
um and I would also want to make energy for my own life and other creations. And so maybe it'll be like, oh, like I am gonna be here on these days. It's kind of like this keynote thing where I like, if you like look over here, you can notice this detail and that detail, and this is what happens, and like maybe like this is kind of going
Wow.
beyond the four, but maybe people have like this. Maybe there's some kind of app that people could use to like, or like maybe they can use their camera and like have this like AR thing that's like, whoa, so now you can see other things happening that are synchronized to the sound,
Ooh.
and like, okay, yeah, this is something I've never thought of. I'm just
And look,
thinking
you
this now.
again, and you've already, from just at least from my own personal perspective from it, you've definitely explained something that to me is very intriguing and very eye catching, because just even visualizing it, oh man, wow, that's, I think it's dope. This is really
Mm,
dope,
mm-hmm.
man. But mustard, I mean, keep that if that's something that just from this that you just thought about, just keep that and continue running with
Definitely.
it. And you can let me know later on what has that continued to grow into, if that's where you want to keep taking it. So
Yeah,
I got my last three questions for you, and then we'll be out for this interview. Which again, appreciate your time. I always appreciate everyone's time, because that's something to me that is very important that you can't get back. So grateful for you sharing your time and your energy with us.
thank you.
Um, we you touched on it earlier, but now I want to make this the focal point. Tell us about your poetry book. I saw that this is the second edition, so
Yes,
I want to know what can we plan to see from reading it.
for sure. So what you can expect from this is like, basically, even for people that do have the first edition, which is like a concentrated amount of people that I had in proximity to my life at the time, because since it was like self-published and everything, like I
Mm-hmm.
would love for even those people to still, like be part of this, and anyone who does have the first edition will have access to this, like, and you don't
Mm,
have to like go through the payment process or anything, because I see my works as like ever expanding and growing. So if you already have the version that is known as rewritten, then you'll also have access to Strange Alchemy. And so for people that are just now getting to know my work, basically what you can expect is like, hmm. So I'm gonna read like three lines from one of the poems. It's called Self Portrait. It's in
mm.
there. It's also on my YouTube channel. It's one
From
of the
that
most
slam.
recent
Mm-hmm.
videos, with dynamic subtitles, so you can like follow along. It's also on the Berkeley Slams Bay Area Poets Unite YouTube channel. If you just want the performance without the subtitles and all the fancy things. So from that piece, some of the lines are: cathedral body phoenixed into moonlit loose strings, I observe this new lunar self-alchemy, new potential mosaic quilt of my every internal resynthesis in silence. How to knit myself and the world back together at the same time. So that's like a taste of that piece. Other things you can expect, and I'm like going more to the like logistical things of the actual book. So the new cover art is hand drawn by me. I traced over a photo of mine and added alchemical symbols to it, like all these other things to it. Right now, as of right now, for now, it's over 60 pages of poems and music. It has pieces that I've written since 2012, and I'll be also including graphic art that I created in addition to the cover, and some photos that I've taken that I feel are relevant to the pieces that I put in there. In one form or another, I will have my poem Oracularity. It's kind of like a you know, that's like a single for me. If this were an album, that would be the single. So that single will be in there either as an erasure or the full thing. And I also am planning for it to be an ebook that you can kind of flip through. Like there's this thing that you can do through HTML. It's like this digital flippable book that you can like click and be like going through it with like all the page numbers, so you can feel like you're not just like scrolling. It's like that experience of like, and that'll be included in this, because like so right when it drops, I'll be sending out the digital version to everyone that got it. And then I'll get into delivering that to people, like the physical copies, and the electronic ebook will be electronic book. The ebook will be part of that, and some bonuses in there. It'll have links to all of my current publications. It'll have like at least 5 in-depth writing prompts to activate your intuition and clear your writer's block. This isn't just going to be like, oh, like try this out and do this thing. It's not going to be like to the sense. It's going to be like this whole like framework thing for you to like go kind of like, maybe not step by step. It'll have like a lot of like guidance for you to like have the poems and pieces in there be examples of like what you can create, not to like copy me, but to like find the alchemic potential within yourself. It'll also have 15, as of right now, never before released songs and poems that I've like never put out. I was like, this is the spot for me to do it, because this is self-published. I can just go crazy. So that'll be in there. And for like everyone who buys the book, I'm offering an extension of my discovery call for creative alchemic activation as a creative coach. I really love like helping people grow and seeing how they can go from struggling with like writing or feeling like they can't write to like just writing something right off the bat within like halfway through session. Like that's happened to me before. Someone was like, okay, wait, like I want to write something. I'm like, okay, like I didn't plan for that, but sure. And then it happened, and I was like, oh my god. And like, yeah, so the way that kind of works is like the more I get to hear about your creativity and your dreams and purposes in life, the more images that come into my mind. Kind of like with my poems, and I can describe those images back to you. And typically what happens is those images become transformational for the other person. So like that image that vision I just had with you of the statue and like the speakers and like the people like coming in and out, that is something that would have not have come to me if it wasn't for the fact that I was talking with you right
Yeah.
now. So that envisioning is just an example of what I can do with people. And you know, it's that those images are not just for me, they're for the other person as
Yeah.
well. And yeah, that's a bit of what to expect from that. It drops the 22nd of this month.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
soon to. The price right now is 13 plus shipping. If you pre-order it, it's gonna go up to 16 when it drops. And yeah, that's basically a lot about the
Awesome.
book.
I know you definitely did. And again, appreciate it. Like, folks will, again, if they gravitate towards it, they will definitely appreciate the same thing too. Because the one question I want to add along with it, and then we're going to get to the last two, is on top of that, because it seemed like you, again, it seems like you just flow with it and you know where I'm taking some of the questions, even though I ain't even sent them to you. But you gave so much content that is going to be in the book and what people can get from the book. What is a message? It can be one, and it can be, we'll just keep it at that because the people can get so many from it.
Okay.
But it's one overall message you want your listeners and your readers to get from the book. Mm.
If there's one thing that you walk away with from my book, Strange Alchemy, it's that you are so much more powerful than you can imagine consciously, period.
Mm.
um,
Mm.
like, because there's so much trying to tell us that we can't access that within us, that we need something external for that to happen, that we always need it. And you know, there are coaches and healers out there such as myself, but all we're doing is just reminding you and reactivating that which was already within you.
Yes.
So like, you know, I feel like that adds to the experience of having another person facilitate it who is like in tune, because when you know that it's already within you,
Yes.
when if you collaborate with another person for that, it's just going to grow even more than if you started from, you know, not believing
Mm-hmm.
in your potential and power to create alchemy and change in your life. So yeah, like as, as much as you might hear this from other people, the power really is within. And like, and I feel like there's so many layers to that. And with this book, I want people to dive into those layers and not just know consciously, oh, I have the power. I want people to be like, I have the power within me, and to not just know that, to like exist in that, you know, like
Mm.
it's such a huge difference for me.
Hey, wow, beautiful. Yes. So y'all heard it. So if it's ringing to you, definitely go for it. I'm already right now making sure I need to go to work because I'm going, not like leaving now, but I'm gonna go to work because honestly, yeah, right now I'm gonna go into the links and I'm more so need to go and need to purchase my copy.
Oh,
So
thank you so
so I'm
much.
definitely gonna check that out. With that, because we're still here talking about people touching into that power within and not only just sitting with it, but applying and using it. We're getting to now. What are your thoughts on divinity and intuition in connection to your life and your passions?
Hmm. My life and passion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna try, I'm gonna hone down on that. That's really big.
Yes.
That is so expansive, which is great, you know. I just want to like be like, okay, what I want to say right now is the way that divinity and intuition plays into my life is, so on the cover there are these alchemic symbols, one of which is next to my mouth, which is a spiral.
Mm.
Which I didn't know this when I found it out, but that's actually a Mesoamerican symbol for speech.
Mm.
and I've been drawing that ever since I was like in 7th grade, because I was like, I kind of think in spirals. And then I was like, wait, what if this spiral goes back to the center? And that was like all
Mm.
clicked for me. Like, there was some crazy subconscious shit happening that I didn't even know that is still happening to me. And that's why I use that symbol in like all of my work as my logo. And so for me, the way that logo embodies itself in my life and being is like using spirals as a framework for me to
Mm.
think and exist and create, rather than something completely linear. For me, it's about combining both to have that spiral and to just be like, oh, over here, over there, that, think about this, and then you just bring it back.
Mm.
To the center, like how I was doing. Like I was like, oh, I'm like spiraling out of this conversation. Let me go back to what we originally said. And for me to be able to implement that into my connections with people in my everyday life, like, oh, I got caught up doing this thing, I got distracted. Okay, let me go back to what I originally planned. It's like I can, my roots in my mind expand so quickly. Sometimes it's like, oh, one thing leads to another, but like if I can scale it back, I'm like, okay, there's that. It happened. Let me keep this direction going. If you really zoom into the spiral, it seems linear, but over time it curves.
Mm.
So you still want that line just slightly curved. Not you don't need to curve it a whole lot, just like a little bit. And so yeah,
Hmm.
that's something in my life that is like a frame for me to create, and like just touching a little bit on a wound, because that I did place that back, and I want to like honor that, and also honor the time and not go too deeply into it. But what I did on wound was I encapsulated my anxieties and fear into sound,
Hmm.
in a way that I can observe and witness and just be like, I trapped. It feels like when you trap a little like evil creature in a bottle. Kind of,
Mm.
that's what that song is. But then you see that little evil creature isn't actually an evil creature. It's a genie, or it's like a little wizard, or like something. And it transforms. It's the shape-shifting thing, just as the melodies do over time. And it was very minimal because well, minimal for me, because I wanted to be like this is what my mind can feel like when it's caving in on itself. But I
Mm.
don't want to like overwhelm the listener. And so, wound is just one example of how that spiral for me can help me like be like, okay, yes, there's this anxiety and fear in my life. Let me turn that into something that can help myself and others. And
Wow.
that's what I am doing with Strange Alchemy.
Wow. Mm. Y'all hear that? Y'all listening? And shouts out to everyone that has and continues to listen, because it's some powerful stuff. And once you find your way into not only learning the alchemy side, but really learning about yourself and what you can bring forth, and you share that, it becomes even more and more potent and powerful. So I appreciate you sharing a lot of that and making it as potent as you do with not only what you write, but also what you speak and, present to others. So before we leave out, I have, of course, the last question. And then I had an excerpt from your one publication in Rigorous. I went all the way towards down at the
Yes.
bottom. There's something down at the bottom, which I know is basically you describing yourself again, but I love the way that you put the words all together. And I wanted to read that before, if you also would like to share a poem or two, you're more than welcome to
For
end out,
sure.
and we can do with the poems. But the question I have before all of this, again, y'all go check out, again, Dog Days Are Over. You got Spotify. You have Elite Tree. If you're not following on Instagram, right now you're right here. You can go and click, and you'll see right there, Dog Days Are Over,
Sure.
underscore Hector. Please
Yes.
click, click, click. And everybody else on YouTube and stuff too, I have all those links done later. It'll be there, good to go. But last question I have for you. When it comes to art, life, everything pulled in together, do you see the quantity or the quality?
I mean both. How not however. And and at this stage in my life I have been focusing on quality a lot more. Like I feel like quantity is what is fed to us
Yes.
on social media and news and like all these other aspects of our life. It's just quantity, 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 quantity. Um, so for me to focus on the quality is to like unify those two things together. And so, like as I described, there's a lot of quantity coming from all directions. So it's like, okay, I got it. I've
Yeah.
been hearing that
Yes.
my whole life. Quantity, quantity. Like you need to have this amount of things out there to be able to do this, and that's just a very vague example that can be applied to so many things. So for me to focus on the quality is to have more one-on-one connections with people, to send more voice notes, to have more smaller groups, to reach people who I
Mm.
know will resonate in one way or another with what I'm creating and co-creating with people.
Yes.
Um, yeah, because for me that's where it's at. Like the reason that we're out here like creating all these things is not so that it can like change the lives of like half of the global population. Like, there are things out there that do that, but I'm not gonna get into that. But for people like us who are probably not like a CEO or like some kind of multi-billionaire. I don't know what, but let me. Okay, so for us, we want to reach those like that 10%, maybe even that 1% of supporters who like they will become part of our ecosystem that will sustain us, and whether that's through conversation, whether that's through financial energy and support, whether it's feedback and insight, the more that you hone in on that like concentrated collective, the more like your artistry will like truly begin to transform. Not to say that you have to accommodate like 24/7. There are moments where you can experiment with curation and like seeing what works, but at the end of the day, you want to create things that resonate with you, because that will be the most sustainable for you to create. And so yeah, I am so much for quality at this stage in my life.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And y'all have it. And before, again, thank you again to Dog Days Are Over. Hector, thank you so much for the interview. Those are all the questions I had. And again, y'all, please go check out Dog Days Are Over. You got the link tree in the bio, as well as you got Spotify. You got so many other different places that you can check Dog Days Are Over out. But before you do, I have the excerpt I want to at least read from Rigorous. And then after that, if
Sure.
you have poems you want to speak and share with us, please do. And then we will end out the interview
Awesome.
in all. So there's a lot that you have in there, because there are so many of them I read through and read, but I know one of them towards the end, from the second, it says second novel of Teeth, in that excerpt,
Mm.
which I know says 73, and this is what it reads. It says, I invert, ascend. Every heart in my gut rises to my temples and becomes God. They blasphemize themselves humbly, assert divinity of all else around us. A motion picture of colors, shapes, flora, fauna, and bodies come into a focus. When the sacred feminine holds the hand of my masculine body, a portal opens in my forehead. I become my own creator. I paint language. This queer neo-shamanistic ritual of creation. I thought that was really dope that I had to share with y'all
Mm,
just because it was a real, honestly, from all that you posted there on there, it just really summed up so much of that
yeah.
in that last piece right there. So that was powerful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that is from Ghost in the Dreamscape. It's a
Mm.
sacred text I created, inspired by this book, actually, Blood and Bajareke by Thea Monnier. Please check it out. It's so dope. Basically, as I mentioned, she sat with her ancestors for 30 days, and both living and have those who have transitioned, and she wrote about her experiences with each of them. And it's a sacred text full of poetry, and her it's basically like a magnus opum of hers, and she inspires us to do the same. And I read this book after I wrote that, but I still think it's inspired me to write that because, you know, going back to the spiral of the non-linearity, there are things in the future that can inspire me for things I've already created. It's like, oh, so
Mm-hmm.
like this still resonates with what I'm creating. So yeah, Ghost in the Dreamscape is something that I have not yet published. It's not at that point, but what I do feel like in its life right now that it can like do is it is a framework for opening other portals for me, and it's a tool that I use in my consultations that I'm
Mm.
gonna start implementing. Like I wasn't originally, but with the alchemic poetry workshopping, I feel like using that as like a material will really help other people. And like, yeah, that part that you read is just like a little section of that. And Ghost in the Dreamscape is only accessible either through my Patreon on the $15 a month tier or through booking an alchemic poetry workshop session with me, because
Mm.
it is just that sacred to me. Like I have not really found any other space for it as of now, and you know that's yeah,
Yes.
that's where it is.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Now, was there any pieces that you would like to share with us before we leave?
Yes, there are. So
Mm.
I already know which ones are calling me out to the most because they're the ones that I like um perform a lot,
Mm.
because they just resonate with me that much that I can perform them like 20 times and still not get tired of them, because
Woo.
I feel like I just build a relationship with them each time a little more. And so the pieces I'll be sharing are self portrait and oracularity. So self portrait, I wrote through, for those of you on the newsletter, if you saw it, you can see more of how I wrote self portrait. I basically took a playlist and wrote to each section. I was crying my eyes out when I wrote that, and you can learn more about that in the
Mm.
newsletter archive. So this cool thing about Mailchimp is that even if you're like haven't joined the newsletter until like weeks and weeks left, if you just go through the archives, like it's all still there. So if you want to learn more about how I wrote that piece, feel free to check out that newsletter. And the second piece, Oracularity, is on, both of these are on my YouTube, but this one I created a full-on visual for it as you experience yourself. And
Yes.
I made it in collaboration with this aerialist, pole dancing poetess named Frankie Moonlight Tanimal. On Instagram, they are at Frankie Says Pause, so feel free to check her out and support them. They are like another fellow multi-creative queer person that like I am so happy that I got to collaborate with. They are with the Poetry Brothel in LA, doing like very like multifaceted, sensual like shows. So feel free to support them. If you're in LA, definitely go out to a show with the Poetry Brothel. And so without further ado, here is Self-Portrait, Part 1. Wait. It's like, okay, I can imagine the first line, but I mix up Oracularity sometimes because they're just those kinds of very juicy pieces. So, okay, the first line to Self-Portrait is... Okay, let me just...
Do it.
This is to demonstrate how much of, like, Oracularity I've been really, like, going into that rabbit hole. Okay, so here we go. This is Self-Portrait Part 1 from my chapbook Strange Alchemy, out the 22nd of February. I'm dancing through the hallways of the house in my mind, looking for fluid darkness already flowing inside my own cathedrals. My body is not a temple. It is something much more divine, a breathing organism. Divinity, my cells hold amount to more than my own soul. Do they? Where is the line drawn between who will become more God than what is incomparable? But waves reflecting moonlight remind me I've learned enough tonight from moments that do not shine. Beauty is really just pain, re-alphabetized into an etymology of gold over fractures, broken into a ghost of the word perfect. And the same could be said for the house inside my brain. I have learned to architecture from dripping dark, seething out my pores. The moon taught us all. She always has been a reminder, her radiance, phasing magnificence, just like my every wake and wane in the window pane, and how anything can become it. Pain, the one thing that will destroy so mercilessly. It will amnesia your restful, make you forget. You can phoenix the atom bomb in your heart, because sometimes all I can ever do is wait the moment I will run. 3, 2, 1, and go. As the strings fire, they ice their way in disguise and pass through the Trojan horse. 3, 2, 1, and go. As the strings fire, they ice their way in disguise to pass through and Trojan horse the strings, woven vertically, so tightly across my face. They are unlearning unnecessary tension when all else seems to threaten. I can break through. I know I can. I just need a breaking so graceful you'd think I had planned how I would be reborn. Cycle once more. Unwind me. I know the mirror can. He has my same hands to slowly peel back my skin, the same pen as well, the same feet to get back up onto. I take myself apart like no lover dreamed they could. Undo myself so carefully, pieces could be resealed in a single origami precise sleight of hand, like I was telling myself to stay put this entire time in my stagnant wholeness. One of the boldest self-surgeries you have ever fucking seen. I can love myself back into radiance, back into ease of internal flow, back into re-remembering my otherness, to re-become a shred of divine worship. Is called back into the prayer this way, as if there were not any divinity before, but I remember all the music after the Amen, all the harmony before Amen. Ra lost its sun. The sun shone before we ever fucking named it. No thing, no where, no name could ever confine me. No syllable or lack thereof could ever confine or define me. No ocean could ever not remind and undo. You Remember what birthed first. She, Earth, she is a home from explosions. Universe says, when will we learn to silence our own eruptive detonations for humanity? When will we learn to silence our own eruptive detonations? I'm still sitting, dancing in that internal house, my cathedral body phoenixed into moonlit loose string. I observe this new lunar self-alchemy, this new potential mosaic quilt of my every internal resynthesis in silence. How to knit myself and the world back together at the same time. Self-portrait. So that was self-portrait.
Yeah, it's powerful every time. And it's now having you perform it live and not watching it and everywhere else. Man. Speechless.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you receiving all this. Yeah, that piece takes me to a whole new place. And we're about to go a little deeper with this other piece, which is like 2.0 of that one. So yeah, self-portrait is like my way of turning my pain into beauty, basically, in a way that's like, I am this ever-changing being that can like I don't even know, like I don't even know consciously all that I'm capable of, but I want to help activate that with other people as well. And oracularity goes like what this touched on, danced around. Oracularity is that I'll just get into it.
There it
This
is.
is Oracularity. It's streamable on all major platforms as well as YouTube with an audio-visual experience out in collaboration with Frankie, Moonlight, Tanimal, and it will be on my chapbook in one form or another. Strange Alchemy out the 22nd of this month, February. And here is Oracularity, aka Ocularity. In the distance I hear a knocking, and it does not make me cower like my mother's knuckle knocks. It cradles the internality of my forehead and sparks, catalyzes its inner uncrucifying from the body held onto so tight for so long, for so many centuries. The way light glints at its own reflection. It glistens and gleams into God's last dream, dissolved onto the mouths of his disciples during his last supper. Supper is just a synonym for rite of passage for slumber. And so in the thesaurus of my mind, my every stomached meal becomes a ritual, becomes the inversion of sacramented Eucharist. And my every ancestor awakens from the grave of my inner mind mausoleum, and they chant in harmonies stacked like summits, birthing other mountains on top of themselves. And in this way, I'm reborn like I always am every day. This ceremony blesses my skin with the alive of my pulse, and I tap my wrists in awe at their organic machinery and how my breath is the summary of my well-being, and how many bodies have died in the name of unjust sacrilege, and how the priest never forgives sinners within the depths of his lockbox. Just isn't lockbox just a man's way of imprisoning what he knows can set fire to his skyscrapers, like his sky suddenly scraping itself into the multiplicity of a black hole singularity until his ego crumbles back into the stardust that birthed it, like how a mother could unbirth her child at any moment but does not, and thus the undoing becomes the holy, and thus I am undone until I am nothing but a ball of light floating incandescent in the hands of spirit, telling my father spirit had something special in mind when they decided to emerge me from the shadows of what should have never been born. My mother's birth canal
Hmm.
too narrow, my cranium too large. To this day, I've had to constantly allow ancestral and descendant energies to cradle me out from narrow birth canals each time I'm reborn, and this channeling and everything but a death, and death is nothing but a vein collapsing into a root system, and
Hmm.
I am every nothing that brought me here to breathe myself into existence until I resurrect every choir the preacher deemed too revolutionary, too
Hmm.
potent, too earthquake. And so I paint a self-portrait each time enough of my cells invert themselves into near a recognition, and my cognition expands beyond the scope of the previously impossible, and possibility becomes a crystalline sphere within my grasp, and I sigh at how closed eyes could channel a river through their forehead as well. All they have to do is sit in the field of bullets and neuron and bone and blood and clay and metal and fire and the webs and mirrors and kaleidoscopes and listen and listen and listen, 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 listen. Oracularity.
Woo! Man. Again, another a beautiful and powerful piece, and there's so much there. Like, again, and if y'all go and see the visual experience with it too, yo, that's on a whole nother different level. Not only the visuals, but hearing the words at the same time. But I always appreciate live performances of that sort, and there's so many pieces that I want to talk and like grab and just be like, yo, man. But just the imagery of the rebirthing and talking about how can a mother rebirth, or unborn, and then talking about how you coming back through and rebirthing using ancestors, and
Mm-hmm.
have like that. I thought that was extremely dope, and there's still, again, the whole pieces all around that, but that's the one that definitely, again, grabbed my ears listening to you perform it again. So thank you so much. um, is there any last thoughts or anything else you wanted to say before we end out this interview and performance stream?
Hmm. I could go on, and I'm gonna just close out here. So if anyone watching in the present and or in the future would like to dive deeper into this work with me and join my community, you can buy the book Strange Alchemy out on the 22nd of this month of February. You can join my newsletter. It's in my bio link on my Instagram, which is dogdaysareover_Hector C. In my Patreon, there's a special for heavy discounts on creative coaching. If you sign up for the $15 a month tier, it includes the Ghost and the Dreamscape manuscript at almost 8K words,
Mm.
and I'm going to be putting in there my Seedlings albums soon. It'll include a 20-minute creative coaching consultation every month, and like, wait, I was going to go somewhere. So there's not just the 15, there's a $5 month. So 15 is like, whoa, okay. Like, there's a $5 one as well, and there are other tiers above that if you all would like to support that, so that you don't have to be as oh, what's he doing, and what are the bigger projects that he's putting out. That's kind of where those bigger unseen for now projects live,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a very passive way to support me while you get an active amount of content your way. And in Lakesh Alakin, which
Mm.
means basically I am you and you are me.
Hmm.
And yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much again for this time. And this has definitely been such a great experience and an interview. So shout outs to everyone that popped through.
Mm-hmm.
and showed love, as well as, again, thank you for bringing your art, sharing your book, sharing all that you are with us. Of course, there's so much more of you. It's expansive, but thank you for giving us a nice feel for who and what you do. Again, dog days are over. Hector C, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
with that, y'all, this has been another More Interviews, aka Memoirs of Our Real Experiences. And as we go, continue and don't forget to continue to write your memoirs
Mm.
and experiences to keep growing and share your life. We'll see y'all next time for the next interview. Peace and one love, and we are out.
Peace.